What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and today we have got a great episode in store for you guys. It is Friday night here in the Koffler Center, and we have got a lot to talk about. Again, I was out for last week. I was on spring break, tried to get an episode out to you guys, but scheduling kind of just got in the way, fell by the wayside. So trying to do a little bit of catch-up work now. Did that last episode by covering the World Baseball Classic with Hey Kami, aka Joel LaFlamme. And now I'm trying to get into the NFL side of things and pick up the pieces there. It was a crazy week last week, so we got a lot to cover, and I am very excited to bring back a former guest of the show, a friend of mine. He is now left Bryant University, spread his wings and fly. He is now at Boston University, making moves there. Kyle Finn, welcome back to the show. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Thank you for having me tonight. We got a lot going on tonight with March Madness. Praying Houston and Alabama win tonight because I got a lot of money riding on it. So it's looking good right now.
Yeah, so we were talking about that off air. So you have Alabama Houston final for your bracket.
Yes, I do. I did have Duke going to the Final Four. Tennessee kind of killed them a little bit,
That's
but
right.
I got UConn in the Final Four, so I got 3 out of 4 right now. So I mean, I gotta say that's pretty good.
You're in a good spot right now. I will say that. I mean, everyone's bracket got busted with FTU, but we'll talk about all that a little bit later on in the show. Kyle, first of all, I know that it's been a while since you've been on. Tell the people what you've been up to.
So far, I have been commentating men's hockey at Boston University, and right now, tomorrow, they have a huge game against Cornell. It's going to be at the SNHU Arena in Manchester, New Hampshire. They win that tomorrow. They go to the semifinals in Tampa Bay for the Frozen Four. It's going to be an exciting game tomorrow. It's going to be on ESPNU, I believe. So if you got ESPN, the extra channel access, go ahead and tune in. This team is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I can't believe that you got this opportunity this year. It's amazing. So I'll tell you this, you were kind of in the cold for most of your sports season. I was dealing with some weather today. It says it was like 51 degrees in Smithfield, but it was opening day, at least for Bryant University's baseball team over at Conity. And if you know anything about Bryant baseball, you have to dress like it's 20 degrees colder than it actually is outside when you play there, just because of the wind chill alone. It is a wind tunnel there. It is brutal.
I mean, it is on top of a hill. They cut
Yeah.
down all the trees, and they don't have any protection there. So I mean, I mostly feel bad for the players.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Not only having to deal with the wind and the chill, but anytime there's a pop fly in the air, they're looking right into the sunlight. So it's
awful.
hard.
It's
It is
awful,
hard.
man. And I'll say this. So the first time I ever had to do a game at Bryant, I was, let's see, it was like my sophomore year is when I probably started working for athletics. And like, I get the call to go over there and I'm making the walk over and I see, oh, it's like 55 degrees on campus. And it had just become spring. And I was like, this is perfect. That type of weather of when I'm walking to like Salmo or anywhere else on campus, I'm like, you know what? I'm putting on the khaki shorts. I'm putting on maybe a light sweatshirt and I'm just going out for a walk. I am when I get over to the press box and I'm outside doing the cameraman, I am freezing my ass off. It is so damn cold over there. I mean, the first time I ever did it, I'm walking back, Kyle, and I could not close my fingers. They were frozen in place from where I was adjusting the camera. And let me tell you, that's a mistake you only make once. You don't make that mistake ever again. So I was over there today in full sweatpants, a sweatshirt, the big flannel on top. I had gloves, and that was funny too, because this kid now who I work with, and he's been on the show too, Ethan Mulder. He said he just texted me and he goes, "I hate you. You brought gloves." I'm like, yeah, man. That's what a seasoned veteran does. You learn from your mistakes, and here we are now.
Yeah, especially when you work the football
Oh
games
my God.
at the football stadium. I mean, granted, it goes from warmer to cold, but it gets you prepared for baseball season. So that's where you learn from your mistakes, like you had mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm glad that I've learned from my mistakes. It's gonna be maybe more of a learning curve for him. We'll see how that goes. But I want to kind of, like I said, catch up because I had been out on spring break. I don't know if I know that some grads programs they have you guys step away. Did you go anywhere for your break, or were you working?
I just went back home to Rhode Island.
Yeah.
When you're up in Boston, the city life can really get to you. It's very chaotic all the time, trying to catch the train, traffic
Yeah.
everywhere. So
Total.
just to be able to go back to Rhode Island to see the friends that I've been away from for a few months, it was nice.
That's good. Yeah. So I was down in Fort Lauderdale. That's where I went for the first like half of the week. And then I came back and I really wanted to like get a show out. But I just had zero motivation. I was like, you know what? This is my break. I want to take the week off. And now that I'm back into it, I'm realizing like I only got 5 weeks of this thing left. I'm going to be graduating soon. And I really want to get on air and do this as much as possible. So I want to get started tonight by talking some NFL news with you. And first start off talking about, what the New England Patriots have been up to this offseason. And it's been kind of a weird kind of offseason so far. So we've had retirements from guys like Devin McCourty, who stepped away, Dante Hightower, who's been done for many years now, officially called it quits. And we've seen, many faces come and go. So it started off quickly when Jacoby Myers officially announced that he was going to be leaving the team. He said that he was going to be going to the Las Vegas Raiders on a 3-year, $33 million deal. And he'd be teaming up once again with Josh McDaniels in a system that will hopefully utilize him correctly. And this move robbed Pats fans the wrong way. So, Kyle, I know you're a Pats fan. What was your take on this?
Well, it had me thinking when I learned about Jacoby Myers going to the Vegas Raiders, because when I saw him make that play at the end of that game against the Raiders, I was like, is this a little preview about what we're going to see? And my
it was
prediction,
an inside job. It was a sell job. I swear.
yeah, I think the NFL should investigate that game a little bit. McDaniels might have paid Myers ?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, shoeless Joe Jacoby. That's all we got to say.
But change happens all the time in the NFL. I like that we went out and got Juju Smith-Schuster. He understands what it's like to be a champion because he literally just won.
Yeah.
He knows the dynamic and how Bill Belichick operates in New England. I don't know if he'll be as productive as he was in Pittsburgh. He is a little older, obviously, but I think this is kind of what he needs. He needs to get back to a team that runs the basics and the way old school football is, and Bill Belichick is simply how he operates. And I think it could be a great match.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. So, that is an interesting move though, because up front, the money that we got Juju for was the same contract as Myers. I know that, money wise, it's structured a little bit differently. Juju's is very incentive based, while Myers is a lot more guaranteed money. And I don't know. A lot of people are kind of questioning what Juju has left. I mean, he's still technically in like what would be the prime of his career. I think he's like 26, 27 years old. So, I mean, it's weird because he came into the league so young. I think he started in the league as like a 21 or 22-year-old receiver. And when he first got here, he caught fire. I mean, he was electric with the Steelers early on. And then he got hurt. He had that really bad shoulder, or it was like the elbow injury, or what was it? So he had like some arm injury that took him out for all of one season. And then he comes back, wasn't as productive. And then he goes to the Chiefs. And, it looked like he was going to have a great opportunity to really thrive in KC once Tyreek Hill was out. And he had a solid year, but not the type of year that you would expect a guy like him to have. So how do you expect Juju Smith-Schuster to play in New England?
Well, frankly, he needs to get off of social media.
Yes.
He was doing way too much talking. Well, when he was in Pittsburgh, then in Kansas City, and hopefully Bill talks to him and says, hey, you got to get off of social media. You need to focus on football. That's what you're getting paid to do. That's what you come to camp and, training camp and all that stuff for every day, not to be on social media, because he really embarrassed himself with the AJ Brown situation afterwards. And hopefully that situation humbled him a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I think he will still be a good fit. I think he'll put up similar numbers to how he did in Kansas City, because you're going from, a potential GOAT in Patrick Mahomes. Now you're going down to Mac Jones, where there kind of is a little bit of a quarterback controversy there with Bailey Zappi and him.
Sure.
And we simply would like to know what's going on in the quarterback situation. I would like to see more of Bailey Zappi. He provided really good energy to this team that I haven't seen in a little bit since Brady has left. Because I went to the game against the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
Zappy didn't really have the best game though, but I mean they pitched a shutout against the number one offense, and it kind of sparked a little bit of life back into that team until they unraveled in the end. But
Yeah.
it takes that little spark to really elevate the Patriots to the next level and catch fire.
Mhm. So do you think that they're like kind of going off that you saw Bailey Zappi live, you got to see what he brought back to the team. Do you think that narrative of the QB controversy with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi could carry over into this year, or do you think it's going to be more of a more of an open kind of open and shut case with with Mac Jones? Do you think do you think there will be a competition next year?
I think they're still going to rock with Mac Jones because he was there from the original bit,
Yeah.
2021. They wanted to surround the offense with him, but he started to struggle last year after having a pretty good rookie year
Yeah.
in quarterback numbers. So I think they're going to rock with Mac Jones in the beginning. But if he starts to struggle a little bit like how he did, or potentially have an injury, I think they're going to give Zappy more room because I think he did prove himself more than what Patriots fans were expecting, because we saw him put up a great fight in Green Bay. We saw the shutout against the Lions, and he really brought life to the organization and to the fans. And we saw, controversy on Twitter all the time where Patriots fans were basically having a civil war with each other
Yeah.
on who should be starting quarterback. And we don't see that in New England. Like we're usually pretty set on who is going to be the QB each week. It was like a soap opera.
Yeah.
Expect the unexpected.
I mean, the Bears, like leading up to the Bears game, you literally had no idea who was going to take the field until Mac Jones walked out there for that first possession. And even then, Bailey Zappi comes in and it's just throws a wrench in the whole thing. So we were completely in the dark for that, and I think the rest of them were as well. So, yeah, it's been a bumpy road for Mac Jones since getting into the league. Like you said, had that good rookie year, and I think really just got screwed over by Matt Patricia as your offensive coordinator. You just can't do that. You can't take a defensive guy and put him on the offensive side of the ball. I know that Bill Belichick thinks that he knows better than everyone else on everything, and for the most part, he does. Bill Belichick is one of the best football minds we have ever seen. But you can't just take a defensive-minded person and put him on a different side of the ball. There's a reason why more offensive coordinators are getting jobs in the NFL. Those guys are typically known as the more creative guys and the guys that can script things. And in the NFL, it's not like what it used to be where it was like a good defense can win you a championship. It's going to be a matter of just like
It's got to be both sides nowadays.
Oh, it's both sides. But I mean, you're seeing now that a really, really good offense can beat a really good defense. It used to be just a good defense can take down a good offense any day of the week. But then we saw what the Chiefs were able to build during their first Super Bowl run. And then we saw what the Eagles were able to do during their time too. And it's becoming more where you're just going to have these shootouts. And sure, defenses are still going to need to step up in big crunch time moments. But in the middle of games now, it's not like you're going to just see teams like really good offenses get, stunted to maybe like 20, 27 or to like 20 or 24 points. Like at least you're going to see teams like at least probably putting up 30 plus.
Yeah, and it's all part of the offensive and defensive sides of how football is evolving. And it's certainly capitalizing on the little mistakes that happen within the game itself. Example I can choose is when Jalen Hurts had that fumble with himself in the Super Bowl, and it ended up being a touchdown return. And I think that was probably the biggest moment in that Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
It's just, you have to be more careful with how you handle the ball, how you operate your offense, because those little mistakes can come back to bite you. And we saw it at the biggest stage this year.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. I think that if Mac Jones gets on the right page with Bill O'Brien, because they're now kind of coming from the same place. Bill O'Brien and Josh McDaniels run a very similar type of offense that Tom Brady was under in New England. And I think if O'Brien can reestablish that with Jones and get him playing to his strengths once again, which I think Matt Patricia just completely disregarded, because I think he took Zappy and he said, all right, this is like my type of guy, and just kind of threw Mac Jones aside once he had the opportunity to. I think if Bill O'Brien can really tap into Mac Jones's potential, we can see him at least get back on track. What I'm hoping for this year is that if you remember how Trevor Lawrence's rookie year kind of got tarnished by Urban Meyer's time in Jacksonville, what I'm hoping is, and it's unfortunate that this has to happen in Mac Jones's third year, but what I'm hoping is that Bill O'Brien can come in and kind of reestablish the scene there, and Mac Jones can maybe take a step towards what similar to what Trevor Lawrence did in his second year. I'm not saying Mac Jones will be Trevor Lawrence, but to get back on the right track and get to where you need to be, I think that's something Bill O'Brien could get out of Mac Jones.
Yeah, I'd say at least put up decent kind of numbers similar to his rookie year, because for what he did as a rookie was pretty impressive. You know, he almost had 4,000-ish yards total, positive touchdown to interception ratio. At least to put up similar numbers compared to his rookie year is a good step in the right direction. And then going into his fourth year, then you want to elevate him to the next level, see him be, I guess, have more trust in the offense and do some more risky things where it's like, you know, deeper passes, you know, tighter throws into maybe double coverage, because you want to have trust with your receivers also. And I think that's where you bring in Juju and also a little bit of Mike Gesicki too. Now that we have a fresh tight end, who's used to a high flying offense when he was with the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be something to watch as well. So my goal for Mac Jones is to have him have a rookie year. I'm going to call it a rookie year plus season. So have stats that are similar to his rookie season, but clean up some of those mistakes that he made in that first year, because you at least did get some game reps last year. It's not like you were hurt for all of last year and you just didn't play. You actually were out on the field reading defenses, making plays still. So I would say that if he can at least be just a tiny bit better than his rookie season, some of those bad interceptions where you're just not reading the defense correctly, routes getting jumped, if you can clean some of that up and, you know, still have some mistakes along the way, but look like you're progressing in the right direction, I think we can, maybe throw that last year out, and then hopefully he can elevate and continue to grow. So that's my goal for him. But you mentioned Mike Gesicki, so that's another move we made as well. I really like that move. So Bill O'Brien, when he was here with Tom Brady, he had the two tight end set with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. And I think we could see something relatively similar with that with Hunter Henry and him and Mike. So Gesicki, more undersized, kind of more in the Hernandez role of things, would be, you know, the receiving type of tight end, whereas Hunter Henry is the bulkier guy, maybe more of a blocker, can still make plenty of catches. I'm not saying he's Rob Gronkowski, but he would fill more of that role.
Yeah, he can definitely provide a nice boost to the tight end role. But I also like that he came from Miami, because the Patriots struggle in Miami. There'll be times where they lose really badly in Miami, and there's sometimes where Miami comes up to New England and they sneak out a win in the weirdest way possible. So by having someone on the former offense, it allows us on the defensive side to scout and predict what they're doing early on, because he knows that playbook inside and out. And it's very important, especially in this AFC East, where you got to get these division wins. Those are very important to get to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So I think having not only his athleticism, but plus his inside knowledge of our rival can be a benefit to the Patriots.
Sure. So I think that's something to look for as well. Another potential offensive weapon, which I think could really help the Pats next year, is Marcus Jones. So, I mean, we saw him in kind of certain plays last year with the Pats. He had that one screen pass against the Bills that he took to the house, which was incredible. And, you know, he's been able to make plays on all sides of the field, whether it be picking balls off, returning touchdowns against the Jets for game-winning victories. So we've definitely seen his potential. So I want to ask you, with him, where do you think he's the most impactful in the field? Do you think if you could only have him on one side of the ball, where would you have him?
I'd probably say offense. I mean, we saw that touchdown return. He went on to win against the Jets. So especially when the offense is a little more slow paced, It's
Sure.
okay to add some speed because it'll catch the defense off guard, which can, provide some positivity. And it also, if it means having another player having to come and guard him, that means someone else has to make an adjustment that can lead to some communication errors, which can potentially lead to some wide open players, which can be beneficial for Mac Jones, who needs to connect on these wide open passes.
Yeah. So I'll say this. When I saw Jones last year, and then I watched more of the NFL postseason. There was a player on a contending Super Bowl team, and actually a team that was in the Super Bowl, that he actually reminded me of. And it's weird. I think that the Pats could use Marcus Jones in a similar way that the Kansas City Chiefs, in a similar way that the Kansas City Chiefs use Sky Moore. Kind of that guy out of the backfield, make like catching passes. I think they could use him in a similar role like that. I feel like he could be pretty effective like that. And like you said, I think his speed serves us better in the offense. Just because that's where we are weak. The NFL is more offense heavy now, and just the more weapons that you can have on that side of the ball, the better. So I would like to see him used in that side of the ball more.
Especially because on defense, like they still held their own
Yeah.
basically for a good amount of the year. They still got a good amount of interceptions, stops on fourth down, leading to punts, and a little bit of fumble recovery. So I think it's mostly just the offense that needs to just step up to the next level. Defenses was holding their own just fine. A lot of the games were pretty competitive for the most part, stopping some of these high flying offenses. But again, it's when it comes to the offense making mistakes, it would lead to, higher the ball being higher up in the field, and then the defense kind of has like less room to maneuver with, which obviously can lead to, those field goals and those touchdowns. So it all really depends on the offense, especially if we can get the offense to at least convert more field goals, because we have a pretty good field goal kicker. Like he was pretty accurate last year, Nick Folk. So you got to get those points wherever you can get them. They are very essential.
So that's interesting though. So I actually did see this. You mentioned Nick Folk, and I mean, I like him too. I think that he's great. I did just see though that the Pats did recently sign a kicker. I need to look for this. So I think they signed a guy from the Broncos. Was it? Or oh no, it's a new punter that they signed. So okay, I thought it was listed as a kicker. Oh no, it's yeah, no, so we never mind. We signed a new punter. I was listed as a kicker, but Corliss Waitman, I guess, is coming to the Pats now. So that's something to look for. But I thought it was a new kicker, which would have been interesting. But yeah, like you said, Nick Folk is good at what he does. I trust him pretty well at this point. I think that we were in a bit of a rough spot after Stephen Gostkowski left, because we had been blessed for many years of going from Adam Vinatieri, who was just the definition of clutch, right to Stephen Gostkowski, who pretty much picked up and didn't miss a beat for almost like a decade at that point. And, only really started to falter once he missed that extra point in Denver. Like once that happened, he started to get a little shaky, still came in clutch for us in Super Bowl 53, hitting home that field goal to seal the game for us. But, that like it's been very up and down. It had been very up and down on the kicking side of the game. Then we found Folk, and I think we're in a good spot now.
Yeah, and I was looking at a social media post today, and it was like players from the 2019-2020 team where it was like Brady's last season, and like it was Edelman, Hogan. It was just like and it's just like they either aren't on the team anymore or are retired. And it's just like, wow, this Patriots team is just not the same as it was compared to like 3 years ago, which is wild to think about.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel old.
Yeah.
And I was like only 20 years old. I was at Bryant University in like, my second year. And I was like, wow, it's really been that long,
Yeah.
but it's wild.
I mean, you were here when the Pats actually won for Super Bowl 53. You got to experience that on campus. What was that like?
Well, I got to experience both the Red Sox and
That's amazing.
that Patriots. And yeah, party scene was wild. Everyone was jumping into the pond off of the bridge. I can't really put it into words because you had to be there for it. If I had to compare it to an event that you have been here for, I'd probably say when Bryant won the NEC championship game.
Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, unfortunately, there were some incidents that kind of Kind of put
Post game. We don't have to worry about in the game.
But even post game kind of put a damper on the mood. I remember you and I were walking around the townhouses thinking like people were gonna be like up and like partying around, and really everyone was like, hey man, let's forget that last part of the game kind of happened.
It also didn't help that the game was on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, that was the thing too. Had that thing been on a Saturday, I think the place would have been hopping.
Yeah, but what can you do?
It would have been crazy, man. But yeah, so the Pats, those are some of the moves that they have made so far. There are some moves that I wish they would make, but as of right now, I'm seeing that the Pats are reportedly out on Cardinals receiver DeAndre Hopkins via a trade. There was a lot of speculation saying that we were going to try to work out some sort of deal to get him here, to get Mac finally paired up with the number one. And, right now that's just not happening. So I guess the teams that are favored right now is the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm assuming that's under the assumption that Lamar Jackson comes back and signs with them, which isn't a done deal yet. Like, he's still out there on the open market, but that's a weird situation as well. And then the other team that is favored as right now is the division rival Buffalo Bills. So not only would you have Stephon Diggs to worry about you, but you'd also have D-Hop on that team, which would be a whole lot to have to deal with. Then you're and not even factor in the fact that you got Josh Allen potentially running the ball at you. So it would be pretty rough if the Bills were to land Hopkins. So that's going to be something to really watch out for. But the only receiver that really I think the Pats have a play for, currently in the league at this point left, would be Jerry Jeudy, at least in terms of a number one. The Pats could go out there and sign 1 million number twos, and it's great. But if you really want to help Mac Jones out, you need to get a number one receiver. And Jerry Jeudy makes the most sense. He's 23, 24 years old, super young, is still got plenty more years before he even enters the prime of his career. So he could grow with Mac Jones over these couple of years and really turn into something here. And I'm really hoping that they can pull the trigger on this. But Kyle, I got to ask you, if the Pats don't sign a number one wide receiver this offseason, or trade for one, or do whatever they can do, would you say this offseason is a failure for the New England Patriots?
I wouldn't say it's a complete failure. They did pick up, Juju and Mike Gesicki, who can bring positivity to this team. But I mean, there's really no one that stands out on the offensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't even think Jerry Jeudy would even be that much of a standout. Like, he would also provide some nice positivity, but like, he wouldn't provide any really standout performances on the level like DeAndre Hopkins would definitely put. So we gotta wait. I want to wait a little bit before I put my opinion on Jerry Jeudy, because if we do end up getting Jerry Jeudy, I would like to see how everything comes together. But if they don't get Jerry Jeudy, I'd say it's if I had to give a grade to the Patriots, I would say it's like a low C. I'd say C minus.
Yeah. I mean, listen, like you said, I like the move for Juju. I like the move for Mike Gesicki. But I would say that if the Pats don't get a number one receiver this offseason, it's a failure. And it's the fact that Mac Jones is in his third year. Like, the second year for a quarterback is supposed to be the most important year of a quarterback's development. And you screwed it up royally with what you did with Matt Patricia. And everyone was saying that it was going to be a bad idea to bring him in. And the only people that were defending it were like some of the ESPN were only like the really big Pats fanboys, or the ESPN guys saying, oh, no, Bill Belichick knows better, knows all. And it was like, no, you can't have a defensive guy call those plays. And lo and behold, it blew up in his face. So if Mac Jones can't get a number one receiver, and he's still kind of stuck middling around with just like just average tier talent, it's not going to work out for him. And I'm just like, you're setting him up for failure. I know that Tom Brady didn't have, didn't have like the best talent all the time, but you at least got him Randy Moss during the prime of his career. He at least got to work with a number one wideout at least once. And I think that you need to understand that not every quarterback is Tom Brady. You're not going to be able to replicate that with just any other guy. So you need to understand that. And I understand that you're biting a big bullet and it's what, like a $30 million contract for a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. I get it. It's a lot of money. But if you want to win in this league, you need to get that offensive talent. It's not like it was 20 years ago when the Pats started their dynasty. You can't just win like that anymore. You need to actually go out and get that off and get those, big name talents. And, if the Pats can't do that this offseason, I'm going to say it's a failure.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you. I wouldn't say it's a total failure, but it's not up to the expectations.
You're at least failing Mac Jones. You are failing Mac Jones.
That's okay. Failing Mac Jones, but the entire offensive wise, it's not that bad. It's not that bad because at least the defense can provide some extra support, but we can't totally put all of our weight on the defense to completely like put out shutouts. Like that's just shutouts are very rare in the NFL.
Yeah, but Kyle, like, look at how other teams have treated their quarterbacks. Like, I get that Mahomes just lost Tyreek Hill, but they at least you still retain a guy like Travis Kelce. And someone I'll give an example for is one of Mac Jones's Alabama teammates and Jalen Hurts. He goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, gets his opportunity there the first year. You see the potential there, and it's like, okay, like, he might be able to really develop into something. And then they say, you know what? We're really going to push all our cards in the middle of the table, invest in this guy, and we're going to go out and we're going to trade for A.J. Brown. A very solid number one type of receiver. Pair him with Devontae Smith, pair him with Dallas Goedert and all those guys down in Philly, and say, we're going to run the table. And you know what it got him? It got them to the freaking Super Bowl. And, maybe it's a pass interference call away for potentially winning the damn thing. So just think about that. So I think if the Pats respected Mac Jones a little bit more, I'm not saying they have the best defense in the league, but they have a serviceable enough one that I think could make some noise in the playoffs. And if you at least give him an offense that can counteract the barrage that this team is going to have to deal with from guys like the Bills, from the Bengals, from the Chiefs, then you at least give him a shot, which is what you need. You need to have a shot against these teams because, again, let's face it, these defenses just can't stack up to these offenses anymore. These guys are going to get gassed. So we need to have the ability to fight back. And if we don't have that, we're screwed.
You said it beautifully. Yeah, defense can only do as much as they can. And especially when you have so much.
I mean, you have Tyreek Hill, who's a borderline Olympic athlete. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, also, I mean, now that you add QB scrambling, because that wasn't a thing like five-ish years ago, like Cam Newton kind of normalized that trend.
Well, Mike Vick was an anomaly. I know what you're saying, though.
Yeah, Cam Newton kind of really started the trend of, hey, I can scramble, I can throw the ball, I can roll and make a deep pass. Like, quarterbacks can really be unexpected, especially if they can do all the above. So
the college game has officially come to the NFL.
Yeah, it's the college game is really really where you need to watch.
Because that's what that was always the big thing is like, you've always seen quarterbacks do this stuff in college. And the thing was like, all right, that guy will never make it as an NFL quarterback because just his skills don't apply in the NFL. I don't know if Jalen Hurts works in the 1980s. I really don't know if it does with the way that those defenses were made up. I don't know if he's going to last on it if he would have made it in a league like that. But in 2022 or 2023, where defenses are kind of a little bit different now, where offenses have a little bit of a different makeup, that allows for guys like Lamar Jackson to come from Louisville and go out there and become an MVP candidate. That allows Jalen Hurts to become a borderline MVP candidate and take his team to the Super Bowl. It's a different league now, and I think the Pats need to recognize that.
And especially because this league's probably going to continue to be changing over the next 5 years. Like we don't even know what's going to be happening 5 years from now. Like this, like we could be seeing something completely different in 5 years. And Patriots, they're going to have to redraw their entire playbook. Like this, the amount of changing and shifting in this NFL is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
2022, 2023 NFL is not going to be the same in 5 years in 2027, 2028. Like
no shot.
We don't know what to expect, but a lot of more unexpectedness. And I kind of want to say I'm excited for the league, but as a Pats fan too, like I'm not really that excited. So it's half and half.
Yeah. I'll say this, like you said it, like this actually kind of leads perfectly into what we're going to be going into, but yeah, the NFL landscape changing dramatically. And it looks like the Pats could have a very different landscape in the AFC East next year, because we did just see last week Aaron Rodgers went on the Pat McAfee show, and in pretty shocking fashion and just pretty candidly, he just goes, yeah, my intention is to play for the New York Jets, and just openly says, I am done with the Green Bay Packers and I am New York Jets or bust, which was crazy to see when it all went down. So I don't know. Did you watch that live when that happened, Kyle? And if you did, just take me through it.
I actually saw the video that McAfee posted on his Twitter because I follow McAfee on Twitter, and Aaron Rodgers is really such a different character compared to all these players in the NFL. Going to this 4-day like darkness retreat where like come on, Aaron Rodgers.
Tripping on LSD, becoming like, bumping fists with Joe Rogan. Like, what are you doing, man?
There's just something about these Green Bay Packer quarterbacks that just for some reason love the Jets. Like, to me, it seems like Aaron Rodgers is just trying to be a Brett Favre 2.0.
And that's the weird thing, because if you kind of hear things about Aaron Rodgers early in his career, he talks about the situation of learning under Brett Favre and said that it was a very difficult experience for him, and that Brett did not really help him out in that transition to the NFL. There wasn't like a, hey man, I'm going to help you, along the way, give you some of my advice. It was like, no, you're my competitor. My goal is to beat you out. And for 3 years, Brett Favre said, I do not care about you. And Aaron Rodgers, I think, went on record saying, I don't want that to be the experience for anyone else. And then proceeded to do the exact same thing for Jordan Love. And then it was like, all right, I'm going to be a Packer until I'm not. And of all the teams that he wants to go to, it's the very team that Brett Favre left for after leaving the Packers. It's incredible how it's lining up. And Kyle, I got to say this to you. Kirk Cousins, this past season in Minnesota, did fine. Obviously, he had that tragic ending in the wild card game where they came up short on the 4th and 8. His time in Minnesota could be could be winding down. And if he was to leave the Vikings, who's to say that Aaron Rodgers might not try to force his way to another contending team and put himself back in the NFC North in a couple of years from now?
I think it would certainly make Brett Favre very happy.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
the only thing that Aaron Rodgers is missing from the Brett Favre report card is committing federal crimes.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the one thing, and I'll give Aaron Rodgers credit for that. He's kept his nose clean with that. But imagine that it lines up. He'd be able to go be with Justin Jefferson, with T.J. Hawkinson, with Dalvin Cook. It'd be a great team if you put Aaron Rodgers in that squad. Like, it could work.
Plus having a terrible defense on.
Yeah, it could really work. And then it would just have to be him throwing across his body to the middle of the field in an NFC Championship game, and the circle would be complete. So, I don't know, man. Like, the Pats are going to have quite the obstacles for them next year if Aaron Rodgers is going to play for the Jets. So, you got, the Jets are basically doing Aaron Rodgers' bidding at this point. They brought in Alan Lazard. They just signed McCole Hardman, which was interesting. And after that, they traded Elijah Moore to the Browns. So that's an interesting move. I don't know exactly why they did that, but maybe that was something Rodgers wanted to do. Maybe he wanted more out of there. And they're kind of building their team and just kind of assuming Rodgers is going to be on the way. Like, what do you think of this? Like, in your opinion, are the Jets the favorites in the AFC East?
No, of course not. Of course not. It's still going to be the Bills.
I kind of agree with you. But
I'll
tell you, Kyle, I've had
the Jets will always be the Jets in my eyes. Mm-hmm. They find a new way to lose every year, and I'm just so astounded by it. It's the favorite. The division favorites are always going to be the Bills as long as Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen are on that same team. That's it. That's as simple as that. I don't know how the Jets would have to pull off so many miracles to get them to win the division. Like I just don't see that happening. And so along with having the Dolphins in that same division too, especially now that the Dolphins got stronger on defense with Ramsey, I just don't see how the Jets can. I think the Jets are going to go toe to toe with the Patriots in being mid.
Really? You think they're going to be closer to that?
I think they're going to be mid. I don't think they're going to do anything.
I don't know, man. I'm just going to say I think Rodgers has the ability to potentially elevate this team. And I'm not saying like the Jets right now are going to be favorites, but I'm going to say look back to what happened when Tom Brady went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What happened? You had a bunch of former, like not even former stars, a bunch of star players and all these other guys like Antonio Brown. You had Leonard Fournette, even some guys on defense. He recruited Rob Gronkowski of all players out of retirement and joined him down there and made kind of what was a super team at the time. And they went out and they won the Super Bowl. So I'm not saying just stick Aaron Rodgers on this current Jets roster and they win the damn thing. But I'm already seeing that Ezekiel Elliott might be potentially interested in going to New York, and maybe as a backup behind Breece Hall. That could be a very interesting 1-2 punch. And then who knows if there's any receivers that want to team up with Rodgers and potentially go out to win a ring and think that they could have a shot in New York. The only reason I would say it is because New York also does have an elite defense. They have a very good defense. So if you could actually get some of those veteran stars and put them on that roster, I'm not saying that they would win the division, but similar to what Brady's wild card team did or similar to what Brady's Bucks team did when they made the wild card, it took them the season to kind of gel together. They lost to the New Orleans Saints twice in the regular season, but then they went to the Superdome and they beat them in come playoff time. So I don't know. I think it could be more interesting than you think.
I just can't see that happening. I just truly can't see that. I don't know what Zeke would do because he hasn't really done anything with the Cowboys since he's had like a decent run back in like 2019, maybe 2020.
But if you take those number one carries away from him and you say, all right, Breece Hall is going to be the guy, and Zeke, we're going to use you in like goal line scenarios, third down back, just hand you the ball in like short scenarios and just ask you to plow forward. Do you think he could do that?
Are we talking like this? Are we talking about in the regular season, or are we talking like in the playoffs where like we're facing really good teams?
I don't know. Your pick. You can answer for both if you want.
All right, regular season, I guess we could, but postseason, I don't even think they're not even the best team in that division. I mean, Miami can give them a run for their money because Miami is just the only way Miami screws up is if Tua gets another concussion or gets another injury, because then you have to bring in Teddy Bridgewater, and he kind of hasn't really had that same level's impact compared to when he was on the Vikings. And then, I mean, the Bills are the Bills. Like Josh Allen is always going to be a threat,
sure,
no matter who he has on the field, whether it be Emmanuel Sanders when he was on the team at one point, Stephon Diggs. I just don't think they're the best team in that division. I still think it's going to be the Bills, but I think the Dolphins are a close second behind.
Yeah, I totally get that. So,
and we're also used to Rodgers choking all the time.
Yeah.
If I saw Rodgers go to the Jets and he won them a Super Bowl, the thing though is I would have to listen to all the Jets fans say, "Oh, he's Joe Namath 2.0. We never saw this coming." Like I just don't want to hear that. I truly just don't want to hear that. So that would be really bad as a Patriots fan. I think if you're a Giants fan, you certainly don't want to hear that because you want to hear the Jets win a Super Bowl and you use their home stadium too. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to hear the Jets win.
Yeah, no, I don't want the Jets to win, but who knows? Who knows? It'll be interesting to see Aaron Rodgers in a new uniform next year. So that's going to be quite the scene to see. But Kyle, I want to shift things over to NBA news real quick before we talk some March Madness. And I saw this recently on ESPN, literally just before the show. So apparently Adrian Wojnarowski and Tim Legler were kind of just talking on, I think it was Get Up or something like that. And they proceeded to say that Jaylen Brown might might kind of be starting to get disgruntled with the Boston Celtics because he's always the guy that gets brought up in major trade discussions. So when the Celtics were talking about trading for Kevin Durant, who were they talking about trading? First off, all right, Jaylen Brown's got to be out the door. When it was just all these other guys, Jaylen Brown was going to be the centerpiece of all these big trades. And people are now saying that Jaylen Brown might be taking this news kind of to heart, and he might say, all right, you guys want to just trade me all the time? I'm going to, and he might be saying, you know what? Screw that. I'm actually just going to walk out the door this offseason and become a free agent and go sign a deal elsewhere where I can get respected. So, there's always been speculation as to how his relationship has been with Jason Tatum. But tell me, what do you think about all this?
It would certainly shake up the Celtics. I mean, to lose a
Absolutely.
top 20 score in the league and just have them walk right out the door, especially to not even get anything in
Yeah.
return, like, oh, that would really hurt the Celtics and their fan base. I don't know who they would end up replacing who can be of that caliber because, I mean, there's times where Tatum doesn't really have the best nights, but when that happens, Brown goes to the next level. He steps up and elevates the team to some big wins.
I mean, we
And
saw that during the NBA Finals. Jason Tatum, you can talk about him, whether he was hurt or whether he just choked, but whatever it was, Jason Tatum just did not have it in some finals games. And Jaylen Brown stepped it up and was scoring 30 plus every single game. Like, he was awesome in those games for the Celtics. So, like, he has the potential to be like that 1A or 1B guy. Like, it's not like he's like a 2 where it's like he can't function without Jason Tatum. He can, and he can be very successful on his own. So I think the Celtics really need to be on their guard here.
yeah, it would just be really bad. But I don't know though. Like Jaylen Brown's like on a team where they have a really good record. I would imagine he would want to go to a team that's going to dish out a huge contract. And I mean, if he does get to a winning team, like who's going to want to dish out that money without going over the cap? Because then when you go over the cap, you have to pay, the fines and the taxes later on, and that can really damage a team way down in the future. So the benefit is there though, but there's also a risk that teams are taking if they want to go that route with Brown.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say this. So I think that what Jaylen Brown doesn't want it to become is like thinking back to the 80s and the kind of dynamic duo you had of Larry Bird and Kevin McHale. Like, obviously, all-time duo, helped the Celtics win multiple championships. And unfortunately, when you think about it and you think of, who was the guy that, helped the Celtics win those championships, everyone's going to say Larry Bird first off, the bat, no matter what. No one is going to say Kevin McHale. It's just because of how good of a player Larry Bird was. He's one of the greatest players of all time, and you have to respect that. I'm not saying that Jason Tatum is Larry Bird, and I'm not saying that Jaylen Brown is Kevin McHale, so please don't crucify me on this. I'm saying that to all Celtics fans that may want to call into the station, might want to write me comments. I'm not saying that about either of these players. But Jaylen Brown doesn't want to be in Tatum's shadow anymore. He wants to get the respect that is due to him. And I think that ever since Tatum has come in the league, it's just been Tatum then Brown instead of Tatum and Brown. It's never been, this team is run by Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. It's always Tatum, then Jaylen. He's never felt like he's gotten the respect he deserves. And I think he probably at this point just wants to stick it to Celtics fans, walk out the door and be like, all right, I'll show you guys. And I think had he gone to the Brooklyn Nets, he probably would have gone off and said, all right, I'm just going to go crazy here. That probably is what he would have tried to do. And, now we see these teams now, and it's just a crazy scene, man.
Yeah, I don't even know what team he would end up going to.
I don't know, man.
I don't know who really needs. Well, I mean, a lot of teams would love to have him though, but
a lot of teams would love him.
Would love to have him though. But in terms of having
maybe like the Miami Heat pair him up with Jimmy Butler or something.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, but then, I mean, kind of like, what do you do with like Tyler Hero? Because I know he kind of moves into that shooting guard role, and I mean, sure. He's someone that also averages 20 plus points a game. He averages, great production on offense and times on defense. So you'd have to figure out how the contract situation would work.
I think you can make
how they would want to, unless they want to do this as a trade, though. That would be interesting because they
That
don't
would
want
be
they
interesting.
don't want to have Tyler Hero just walk away like how Brown would walk away from the Celtics. They don't get anything from it.
Mhm. I don't know. That would be interesting to kind of see how that would play out. And I don't think that I don't think if the Celtics feel like if the Celtics feel like it was bad enough, I'm hoping that they wouldn't just like let Brown walk away. I'm hoping that they would eventually come up with some sort of a deal, get some sort of compensation for him, because he's not the type of player that you just let him walk out the door and you don't get anything. I mean, even the Nets realized, all right, this deal with Kevin Durant isn't working out. We got to get what we can for him. They said the same thing with Kyrie Irving, as he had 1 year left on his deal, and they were like, all right, he's not coming back here. He said he doesn't want to be a Brooklyn Net anymore. We need to get something. So if the Celtics feel like it gets bad, I'm hoping that Brad will pull the trigger, get Jaylen out, and get something in return. That's my hope. So I hope it doesn't come to that. I love Jaylen Brown. I think that he should be, a lot more people's favorite player because of all the dirty work he does, because he just is kind of that grinder and is, more of an old school player. So I hope that he can, whatever, Intel, Woj, and Legler have, I'm hoping that the Celtics can, repair whatever damage may be done to the relationship. But the Celtics have been in trouble lately. They've been kind of sliding after the All-Star break. At one point, they were the best team in the league. Everyone was saying, all right, who's going to be, like what team would be more disappointing to lose the finals, the Celtics or the Bruins, because the Bruins have been on an absolute heater. And now it's like the Celtics may not even be in contention for the thing. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on them so far, Kyle? Like, do you think that they can turn it around?
Yeah, once they get into the actual playoffs themselves, they play that first round against, well, depending on where they finish in the seeding, because if they finish as a 2 or a potential 1,
Mhm.
they get the play-in team. 3, they face a 6. I think they just need that first round to really get like, kind of like the cold streaks out, get themselves back into that rhythm, because you have to get used to playing a team for a potential 7 games. It's not like where you just do one and then you see them like 2 months later. I I just don't think Brown should just leave just because he isn't getting all the attention. Like you're still going to get paid greatly if you stay with the Celtics. You're still going to be a top 20 scorer unless he decides to have a cold year, but that would be on him. Um, I don't know why he cares so much about the attention. You're there to play basketball. You want to get wins. You want to get championships.
But Kyle, I'll say this.
It's not a guarantee if you move to another team. And sure, you might get more points per game, though, but it's not a guarantee that you're going to get more accolades. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get more championships. You've already been in the Celtics structure for so long. Stick with the structure that you already know inside and out and know you can execute.
Kyle, I'll say this though, and well, I know I just said that Jaylen Brown is an old school player, and I do believe that in terms of his play style. But I will say this: I think that Jason Tatum, we know that a guy like him idolized Kobe Bryant, tries to mimic certain things of his game off what Kobe does, maybe to a fault even. And but I think
It was very evident in last year's finals. He like would try to like mimic every single thing that he would try to do. Like it was like really scary.
yeah. So I'll say this: what I think is the problem is with guys like Tatum, Brown, and some of these new superstars is they don't have the mentality of a guy like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant. They have the mentality and kind of incentive structure of guys like Carmelo Anthony, where it was more about, all right, what personal accolades can I get for myself before what team accolades can I acquire? Because if you think about it, Carmelo Anthony, he wanted to get the scoring titles. He wanted to get the all-star appearances. He wanted to just be like the superstar in the King of New York. That was what he wanted. And for the most part, he got it. And listen, Carmelo Anthony, great basketball player, but at the end of the day, he never got that championship that guys like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and all those other guys got. And I think that really, tarnished his legacy. Not tarnished, but I think it hurts his legacy when you think about him in terms of other things. In the Olympics, he stepped up. He's a team player. And, Carmelo Anthony is like a different dude. He helped those Team USA teams, win all those championships. And I watched that and I'm like, where is that guy in the NBA? Why could he never do that? Like whenever Carmelo played for Team USA, you could see the potential of what that kind of like championship mindset Carmelo could be. And we just never got it. And I think we started to see it a little bit later in his career, but unfortunately, his skills kind of diminished and he became more of a role player. So I'm hoping that Tatum and Brown can kind of have that realization sooner as to like, hey, the personal accolades are great, but at the end of the day, championships is kind of what makes your legacy. And if you don't get them and you're just like becoming like this great all-star, yeah, sure, maybe you will even still be remembered as one of the greats of all time. But greatness is measured in wins, it's measured in championships, and I'm hoping that they can come to their senses and try to actually come through on that this season.
Yeah, I just think Brown's overreacting. Like he's 26 years old. He still has at least another, I would say at least another 10 years,
Oh my God, yeah.
bearing no injuries, because we always
Yes.
have to keep that in mind.
Mhm.
Frankly, I think the biggest thing that is going to hurt his legacy, and like how you did, like how you said with Carmelo, is putting your pride ahead of the team.
Leave your pride at the door.
Yeah,
Ego,
when
pride
when you're
at
playing
the door.
basketball, it's a 5-player sport on both sides. Your teammates are there to help you out, and you should be there to help your teammates out. It shouldn't be about me, because then we see players like Carmelo Anthony, who sure, yes, they average 25 or 30 points a game a season, but guess what? They fall short of the main prize every year because of foolishness. And that's simply what Jaylen Brown is going to do if he doesn't change his attitude.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I think that they need to shape up and really kind of change the culture there. I'm hoping that, like you said, come playoff time, they can snap into gear, but we'll have to wait and see with that. But Kyle, before we do end, I wanted to touch really briefly on some of the crazy March Madness games that we've seen so far. We're in the Sweet 16 now, so we're really starting to get into the thick of it. And right now, what Kyle, like you said, some of the teams you got Houston and you got Alabama in your final. What are some games going on right now? I don't have the scores up on the television right now.
Alabama's winning by 10 right now, halfway to go in the second, and
Okay.
then at halftime, Miami's winning by 6 over Houston.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, listen, this March Madness, like many others, always is just bound to just be full of crazy moments. We saw some last night with the K-State game with Keontae Johnson catching that alley-oop pass for that amazing dunk. Like, I don't know.
And that guy on Kansas State getting the record for most assists in a March Madness game.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, Michigan State Kansas State game, that I don't know if it's too early to say it's one of the all-time great March Madness games just in terms of back and forth action, because no either team didn't hold a double-digit lead at all in that game. It was 50-50 from start till finish. And I mean, some of the games that we have seen in March Madness have been blowouts right from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that is what March Madness is all about. 50-50, you're on the playground. What's this called where you go back and forth? Like on the playground where you like one person goes down and one person goes up, and then it's
a seesaw.
Yeah, seesaw. That's it. That's how you know.
I thought you were talking. I thought you were talking about like dribbling basketballs.
No.
I was
seesaw.
Like, what are you talking about?
No, but you're right. Seesaw.
Yeah,
it was a very seesaw back and forth game where one team would be up by 5 points, and then quickly 2 minutes later, that team's up by 5 points, and you just don't know what is going to happen. So that's what makes March Madness so great.
Kyle, I'm not gonna lie. That was probably the worst visual aid for a seesaw I've ever seen in my life. I was so confused. I was like, what is this dude doing? I was like a scale. Like, is he like dribbling something? Like, what you do?
Hey, listen, there's not many playgrounds up in Boston. It's all just dog parks. So
that's fair enough, man.
Yeah. But yeah, those types of games are what makes March Madness so awesome. I love those types of games.
We also saw the Gonzaga UCLA game last night where the Zags took a play out of my Wildcats book. Taking literally the play from the Wildcats game-winning shot. I think it was from the 2016 year where
Jenkins hit the game-winning shot.
Yeah, Chris Jenkins. Insane. Like the games this year have been awesome. And I mean, it all started in the first round when we got to see Fairleigh Dickinson upset number 1 Purdue.
That should have been Bryant.
No, actually,
if they say to the NEC, that should have been Bryant.
I swear to God, Kyle, I was thinking the exact same thing. Because listen, credit to FDU, amazing story to get as far as they did. But like you said, that should have been Bryant. that should have been freaking Bryant because, I know that we left the NEC, we came to the America East, and hopefully it is for the better. Maybe we can build up the brand more potentially when we, have our teams good enough to make the make the NCAA tournament again. We can have higher than a first 4 play-in game. Like we can maybe actually have a 15 seed be in the actual round of 64 and, actually be on some brackets. Cause let's face it, I'd love to just have a Bryant upset in there at some point. But yeah, Fairleigh Dickinson, like I think the Bryant team we had this year could have beaten Fairleigh Dickinson. I'm sorry. We are a better team than them. And then I think we also would have been able to beat Merrimack this year because also Merrimack kind of got screwed out of this whole thing because they're in like the last year of their Division II transition from D2 to D1, and they won the NEC title. They won the thing. And Fairleigh Dickinson, from what I can tell, at least somewhat tried in the game, and they still were able to just say, all right, yeah, we're going to March anyway. It doesn't matter, you guys. We actually won today.
Yeah,
It's crazy, man. And I mean, and I'll give them credit too.
But listen, that's what Merrimack signed up for. They knew what they were signing up for when it came from switching to D2 to D1. Yeah. They knew they would have to agree to those rules. Those rules have been in place.
It's a stupid rule, Kyle. It's a stupid rule.
It's just the rule that have been in place forever. They understood what they were signing up for. They still signed the papers and they transferred over.
And the NCAA needs to repeal that rule because if you could have a college that's competing for a tournament and for your college competing for a national title tournament within 5 years of going from Division II to Division I, they should be able to compete. There's nothing that says they shouldn't be able to compete. It's not like I could understand football where it's like, all right, maybe like there's actually a physical hazard of having D2 guys go against D1 guys. But even then, if you're having teams that can go out into a Division I conference and compete within a 4 to 5 year time frame, they should be able to go to the playoffs. They should be able to.
Oh no, I agree with you though, but that's just how the rule has been for the entire time. Nobody's ever tried to strike the rule down. I mean, teams really, for some reason, really agree with this rule. Don't understand why. I would love to get know the background to why they agreed to it.
I understand why they agreed to it. It's because it's the only way that they can get in. They know. All right, we want to go D1. If we do, we have to agree to this bogus rule because no other league is going to let us in. That's the part that sucks.
Maybe like someone could, bring this to the NCAA, say, hey, we disagree with this rule. We would like to, have a committee on this. Hear our sides. We hear the other side, and then we vote. Have it be a very democratic way. We let the people decide. Same way should go for the NCAA rules. Same with how they always change the rules. Like we can do MLB. Like they got voted on. They agreed to them because they knew the sport was dying. So it is what it is, though. But at the same time, it's like it's a what if that could have happened, but we'll never know. Maybe in an alternative reality.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But there have been so many other crazy games as well. I mean, you had Princeton, a bunch of Ivy League schmucks.
The nerds, as I call them.
Yeah, go to the Sweet 16. They're facing number 6 Creighton, and I feel so bad for this because my neighbor actually goes to Creighton for medical school, and they're ranked as the 6th seed. But Kyle, if you know anything about Creighton, they are known for usually choking in big moments.
They better not be choking tonight. I have them winning.
I don't know, man. Creighton is usually one of those teams they usually go out earlier than you expect.
Listen, if Creighton loses tonight, then Xavier's got to lose at some point.
Yeah.
The Big East is known for having chokers.
Mm-hmm.
The only one exception for the Big East teams to go this far is UConn.
Yeah.
They have a well-structured built team.
Yes.
And when I went to go see UConn up against PC Friars early in the year when UConn was ranked, that was a fluke game. I'll be honest, that was a fluke game. They didn't really have the best shooting night. This team's stacked.
Oh yeah,
and that's why I have them going to the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
But
it makes sense.
I have to pray that Gonzaga has a bad shooting night because they had a bad game against UCLA going up until halftime. They were down by 15 points. But then UCLA just went cold for almost 15 minutes of the game, not hitting a single basket. And it was weird. That's not what UCLA is used to doing. But They also did have a lot of injuries. So did we kind of see it coming? Maybe. Is it what we're used to seeing from UCLA? No. That was a very rare moment in March Madness history.
Sure. So Kyle, I know that we have we have some teams tonight. If you had to pick one of the teams to upset, so I'll give you the games we got going on right now. We have number 5 Miami against number 1 Houston. We got number 5 San Diego State against number 1 Alabama in what is a 1-point game right now. So that's very interesting to see. And then we have 15 Princeton at number 6 Creighton, and then finally number 3 Xavier at number 2 Texas. Of those games, who do you think would upset? This thing will go up probably after all these games, but who's your pick?
I don't want to be wrong, but I mean, the Nerds have been hitting it well right now, and they've been winning against pretty dominantly. So, and I've lived with watching Big East basketball my whole life, with PC Fries and seeing Creighton and Xavier and all those other teams. So, even though I have Creighton in my March Madness bracket and I got a lot of money at the end of it on the line, I'm going to say Princeton upsets Creighton.
Give me the Nerds. Give me the Nerds.
Give me the Nerds, I guess. Give me the Nerds.
I don't know. Yeah, that'll always be fun to see. So, Kyle, it's been a blast having you on the show. Unfortunately, we are now down to the wire, which means that we're going to wrap up what we talked about today and send you guys on your way. Obviously, Kyle Finn, thank you so much for joining me back on the show today. I know it's been a while since you've been on, so I'm really glad to have you back on, talking some sports with me.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. So today we broke down the NFL offseason so far, from the New England Patriots and their moves to Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. We also talked about Jaylen Brown potentially being done in Boston, as well as some of the games across March Madness so far. It was a great time talking with Kyle. Really did appreciate it. But if you guys are not falling down the wire at this point, make sure you guys go follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those streaming platforms. We're also on YouTube where you can watch the video version of the show. And then you can get any updates on us on our Instagram page at down.to-the-wire. Make sure you guys go follow there. You guys have been listening to WJMF 88.7 HD2, the beat of Bryant. I'm Brian Costa.
And I'm Kyle Finn.
And we hope you guys have a great weekend. Take care and peace.
And go Nerds.
Go Nerds. Go Nerds and peace out.